Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, another Swiss 001 video. And today we are back in the Concorde, of course. Yeah, I kind of want to just fly this plane again. And we are at London Heathrow, pretty much the Concorde's home. You know, the Concorde's other home is John F. Kennedy Airport, New York, because that's where the Concorde mostly flew. Paris, you know, London, John F. Kennedy. I mean, really, back then when the Concorde was still flying, when you said, you know, I was going to fly the Concorde, then most people would presume, okay, you're gonna just fly to New York or Paris or London, depending on where you actually are. But that is not particularly true. The Concorde did visit some other places, and maybe even some exotic ones indeed. Let's maybe travel around the world and maybe visit places that the Concorde actually also visited in real life. Well, let's maybe start with flying to the shortest runway that the Concorde ever visited, and that was Cardiff Airport. Cardiff in Wales, you know, also in the UK. Let's go to Cardiff. I've never been to that place ever. This place only had a 2,300 meter long runway, which is interesting. I mean, that's definitely not a usual place for the Concorde, right? Here we go. Welcome to Cardiff Airport. And this really isn't a large airport indeed. Yeah, the flight to this relatively small airport happened in 2003, and ironically enough, the plane had to land here because of an emergency. This was not a scheduled flight or anything. There were some engine problems, and I can imagine that, you know, this happened not long after the Concorde crash that happened in 2002 or so, 2001, I don't know. I can imagine that the passengers were a little scared to land at such a small airport, but as we saw in an earlier video, this plane does not struggle at all with short runways, or does it? I mean, we can try taking off this plane out of here, but I'm pretty confident this is going to work without any issues at all. We're taking off with the afterburners on, which is probably very badass. I think we have a wet runway here, but that doesn't really matter for the Concorde either. As you can see, we are accelerating at quite a very fast pace. Maybe you wouldn't want to fly at this airport when fully loaded, but there we go. Perfect operation on the shortest runway that this plane ever visited. More or less accidentally, but that's another story. Another place that I wouldn't ever thought that the Concorde had flown to was Geneva, with another kind of short runway, 3,800 meters. Okay, no, that's not particularly short, but it's a very interesting airport anyway because of the Alpine region. Alright, welcome to Geneva, and for some reason my computer is kind of struggling at flying at all these places. It doesn't seem good. I mean, the Concorde in the flight simulator especially is a very complex plane, much more complex than most other planes that you can find here in the flight simulator, and so I can understand it. And we have the airport of Geneva ahead. Okay, actually the runway at Geneva is longer than I remember. It's still a pretty exotic airport, especially for such a Concorde, right? But this is a place that the Concorde could just normally operate at. I mean, 3,800 meters, that's no problem, even if this airport is at a little bit of an elevation. But this is really an easy airport for the Concorde. Let's go ahead and get plane landed here. There we go. The first landing of today wasn't particularly good at all, but that's another story. We have stopped now. That's what counts, right? There we go. Touchdown at Geneva. And that was again a big tail strike, which is something that's normal to the Concorde. A very interesting airport that's sadly now closed. It doesn't have a particularly long runway either, 2,800 meters, but what is more interesting is definitely the approach into Kai Tak. That's like where I do wonder, how did the pilots come in with the Concorde to Kai Tak Airport? Not a very easy destination for sure. Oh, mountain. Oh, Jesus, that's gone wrong, very wrong. Let's just ignore what just happened. And again, come in for a landing at Kai Tak Airport in Hong Kong, and what is wrong with my computer? Why is it struggling with flying? Alright, we are approaching Kai Tak though. The city is right ahead of us, and we're literally going to fly into the city, which is going to be interesting again in the Concorde, which is an incredibly loud plane, of course. That's probably woken up a few people on the ground. Okay, other than that, we're totally ready for this flight. Let's get this over with. You know, I do kind of like flying the Concorde, at least here in the flight simulator. In the cockpit at least, it's a pretty, quiet plane because we're so far from the engines, I guess. No, this is actually quite a comfortable plane to fly. It's pretty cool, and it's obviously pretty fast, pretty powerful. Just with the afterburner. Try having another passenger plane with afterburners, right? And by the way, let's try not crashing into a building here, which is the main challenge of Kai Tak. and we're coming in very wrong. Jesus. Okay, let's just fly in between these buildings or something. And we're coming in here. There we go. See, we can now kind of understand why this airport was closed.
Pull up. Terrain.
For airliner operation. Okay, now we're coming in on a good path, but it's time to turn right in 3, 2, 1 now. Oh, Jesus, let's not hit that building. 5 out of 10 landing already. Let's go ahead and come in for a touchdown. Damn. Alright, a pretty hard landing there, but you know, what we do care about now is stopping, which shouldn't be that much of an issue, because the Concorde, again, is pretty powerful plane when it comes to stopping performance. Okay, there we go. That was a landing here at Kluttig Airport. Again, not a particularly comfortable landing. Let's go to the view of the tower and zoom in here and see how this landing looked. With all the buildings here, it does look very interesting. Alright, we're coming in. Just the bank angle as well is not particularly easy. But then an actual landing. That was alright. And as you can see, a landing as well. Not a particularly nice one, but, you know. Okay, we didn't crash into any buildings either, so that's the point. Okay, another place that this plane actually flew to, a lot, by the way, was the Caribbean, Barbados, or some other exotic places. For example, our most favorite airport, St. Martin, Princess Juliana, I think the database, Princess Juliana Airport. The airport with that interesting beach in front of it. Yet the plane flew here in 1989 with Air France, and this one now has a 2,200 meter long runway, which is even shorter than Cardiff. Like, on Wikipedia, it said that Cardiff was the shortest runway that this plane ever flew to, but that's another story. Okay, let's go to St. Martin. Probably one of the shortest runways as well. Maybe even the shortest, 2,200. I wouldn't really not go shorter with the Concorde. Alright, welcome to the Caribbean, St. Martin. Shortest runway that this plane ever flew at? I don't know. See, this is why I don't really like using Wikipedia for videos, but I do it every time because I don't do proper research. No, just kidding. Let's go ahead and get this Concorde landed here. Now, the reason I always do these very, very hard touchdowns is because I come in at quite a low speed, actually. You want to land this plane at 200 knots easily. So let's just land this plane at 200 knots. We are now faster than ever, and this is now I have a little bit more control of this plane and can bring it down to the ground easily. It was, as you can see, a great landing. In my eyes, it really wasn't. We are still very, very fast, and we don't have a lot of this runway left, so we better stop right now. Jesus. There we go. Yeah, you see, you can easily get a close call here at St. Martin Airport. And as you can see, we overflew Maho Beach indeed at an insane speed. There we go. Just imagine standing here and then the Concorde flies over. That's where they gotta be pretty savage there with the Concorde. So, you know, that's just flying the Concorde around. You know, we gotta use it every month, at least once. Yeah, guys. Thank you for watching today's video. Merry Chrysler to everyone. And I'll see you tomorrow. As always, good night.